One Sunday you can be the woman who sacrificed everything for your daughter, and the next you realize she values you less than a stranger who married into her life 3 years ago. That Mother's Day morning, the humiliation didn't just break my heart. It shattered the illusion that unconditional love would ever be appreciated. When I saw what Rebecca gave me while presenting a house worth nearly $500,000 to her mother-in-law, I knew something fundamental had died between us forever. My name is Margaret Peterson, though everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 64 years old, and I never imagined I'd spend Mother's Day feeling invisible in my own daughter's life. It was a bright May morning in Portland, Oregon. I woke up at 6, as I always do now that sleep has become a luxury reserved for people without decades of worry etched into their bones. I stood before my bathroom mirror, applying the coral lipstick Rebecca gave me years ago when she still paid attention to what made me smile. I chose my best floral dress, the one I'd been saving, and even wore the pearl earrings my late husband Tom gave me on our 20th anniversary. He'd been gone 8 years now, but I still felt him with me during important moments, whispering that everything would be okay. I stopped at the corner bakery where Maria, the owner, greeted me with her usual warmth. "Something special for Mother's Day, Mrs. Peterson?" she asked, boxing up the lemon tarts Rebecca had loved since childhood. "I'm sure my daughter has something wonderful planned," I said, feeling that naive flutter in my chest that would soon turn to ice. I couldn't have known what was waiting for me. I arrived at Rebecca's house in the suburbs around noon, parking my 15-year-old Honda Civic behind a row of luxury vehicles I didn't recognize. The front door stood open, and laughter spilled from the backyard. Not my laughter, not laughter that included me. I heard my granddaughter Sophie's voice, bright and young at 14. Then I recognized the sharp, practiced tone of Diane Collins, my daughter's mother-in-law, holding court as always. I walked through the house, past the walls decorated with family photos that featured fewer and fewer images of me with each passing year. What I saw in the backyard stopped me cold. Rebecca stood on the stone patio with her phone recording, beaming at the crowd of Bradley's relatives and their country club friends. Bradley, my son-in-law, was presenting a set of keys to his mother Diane, who stood beside a massive red bow attached to a stunning craftsman-style house across the street. Not a model, not a picture, an actual house. "We just closed escrow yesterday," Rebecca announced, her voice trembling with pride. "Mom Diane, you've always dreamed of living near us, and now you will. This house is yours." $420,000, paid in full. The crowd erupted in applause. Diane pressed her manicured hand to her chest, tears streaming down her carefully made-up face. "Oh, Rebecca, Bradley, you shouldn't have," she said, though her triumphant smile suggested she believed she deserved exactly this. "You're the most generous, thoughtful children anyone could ask for." I stood frozen at the edge of the patio. Bradley's father was there, raising a champagne glass. Bradley's sister was there, filming on her phone. Diane's bridge club friends were there, cooing over the gesture. Even neighbors I'd never met were there, applauding this spectacular display of generosity. And Rebecca, my daughter, the child I'd raised alone after Tom died, was glowing with pride at having pleased this woman. That's when she finally noticed me. "Oh, Mom, you made it," Rebecca said, walking over with a distracted smile. She handed me a gift bag from the drugstore, the kind with generic tissue paper stuffed inside. It weighed nothing. Inside was a small bouquet of carnations, the cheapest flowers they sell, with a price sticker still attached, $25. The card wasn't even in an envelope, just a standard Hallmark card that said, "To Mother," with a printed message inside. At the bottom, Rebecca had scrawled, "Love you, Mom. Thanks for everything. Becca." I held that bouquet while everyone immediately returned their attention to Diane and her house. I tried to smile, to look grateful, but my hands trembled. Sophie approached quietly, slipping her hand into mine. "Grandma," she whispered, "this isn't right." Those were the only words of comfort I heard all afternoon. The party continued for hours. Everyone surrounded Diane, asking about her decorating plans, offering congratulations, taking photos. Bradley's business partners praised his family devotion. Diane's friends declared her blessed. Rebecca moved through the crowd accepting compliments on her generosity like she'd just won a humanitarian award. I sat at a corner table, holding my drugstore flowers, watching my daughter celebrate giving someone else's mother a house while I clutched $25 worth of wilting carnations. No one asked what I received. No one seemed to notice I was there at all. I'd brought the lemon tarts, set them on the dessert table, and watched them disappear without anyone knowing they came from me. When I tried to leave quietly, Sophie caught me at the gate. "Please don't go yet, Grandma," she begged. "I made you something." She handed me a hand-drawn card with, "I love you," written in careful letters. I held that card against my chest and cried in my car for 20 minutes before I could drive home. That evening, sitting in my small living room, I looked at those cheap flowers and felt something shift inside me. For the first time in 39 years of motherhood, I let myself feel angry instead of understanding. I walked to my bedroom closet and pulled out the box I kept on the top shelf. Inside were receipts, bank statements, loan documents, and records of every sacrifice I'd made since Tom died when Rebecca was just 12 years old. I spread them across my dining room table and began to calculate. Nursing school for me at age 43 after Tom's death, so I could support us. $30,000 in student loans I'd only finished paying off 3 years ago. Rebecca's private high school because the public school was struggling. $18,000 a year for 4 years. Her college tuition at Portland State, $42,000. Her semester abroad in France, $12,000. Her master's degree in marketing, $28,000. Total education, $165,000 of investment in her future. Then came her wedding to Bradley 3 years ago. The venue she insisted on, $20,000. The dress, $4,000. The catering, flowers, photographer, band, another $44,000. Total wedding, $68,000. I'd cashed in part of my retirement fund for that wedding, believing I was investing in her happiness. When Rebecca and Bradley bought their first house 6 years ago, they needed help with the down payment. I gave them $95,000, my entire life savings at the time. Tom's life insurance money, every penny we'd saved together, handed over without hesitation because my daughter needed it. Then came the furniture, $8,000. The landscaping, $6,000. The home security system, $3,000. When Sophie was born, Rebecca went back to work after 3 months. "Mom, could you watch her? Daycare is so expensive, and I don't trust strangers with my baby." For 5 years, I cared for Sophie 5 days a week, 10 hours a day. I fed her, changed her, taught her to walk and talk, sang her to sleep. If I'd charged the going rate for nannies in Portland, that would have been another $120,000. I never asked for a penny. Then there were the smaller things that added up. The car repair when theirs broke down, $3,000. The emergency room visit when Bradley lost his job, $2,000. The weekly groceries I'd buy and drop off, $100 a week for years. The clothes for Sophie, the birthday gifts, the Christmas presents, the vacation money I'd slip to Rebecca with "Have fun, honey." I did the math 3 times because I couldn't believe it. Over the past 27 years since Tom died, I had given Rebecca more than $400,000 in direct financial support, not counting the monetary value of childcare and time. $400,000 earned through double shifts at the hospital, through picking up extra weekend work, through saying no to every personal want I'd ever had. And today, on Mother's Day, my return on that investment was $25 worth of drugstore flowers. The comparison wasn't lost on me. Diane Collins, who'd been in Rebecca's life for 3 years, received a $420,000 house. I, who'd been in Rebecca's life for 39 years and sacrificed everything after her father died, received $25. The ratio made me physically ill. I was worth 1/16% of what Diane was worth to my daughter. That night, lying awake at 3 in the morning, I made a decision I'd never thought I'd make. For 39 years, I'd put Rebecca first. I'd sacrificed my career advancement, my social life, my romantic possibilities, my financial security, everything for her happiness. And I'd done it gladly because that's what mothers do. But somewhere along the way, Rebecca had learned that my love was free and infinite and required no reciprocation. She'd learned that Diane, with her demands and expectations and social connections, deserved grand gestures, while I, with my unconditional love, deserved whatever was left over. I was done accepting leftovers in my own daughter's life. Monday morning, I called my lawyer, Richard Morrison, who'd helped me with Tom's estate years ago. "Richard, I need to make some changes," I said. "Significant changes." I drove to his office downtown, bringing every financial document I owned. For 3 hours, we reviewed my assets. My home, paid off, worth $380,000. My retirement accounts, $170,000. My savings, painstakingly rebuilt over the past 3 years, $45,000. A small inheritance from my mother, $70,000. Total estate value, approximately $665,000. "I want to change my will," I told Richard, "completely restructure it." He raised an eyebrow but took notes without judgment. "I want Rebecca to receive exactly $25,000, not a penny more, the same amount she valued me at with those flowers." Richard paused. "Maggie, I have to ask, are you certain about this? I know yesterday was difficult, but this is permanent." "I've never been more certain of anything," I said. "The remaining $640,000 will be divided as follows. $300,000 to the Providence Children's Hospital in memory of Tom, to fund nursing scholarships for single parents. $250,000 to Sophie's trust fund, accessible when she turns 25. The rest for funeral expenses and settling my estate." "What about your house?" Richard asked. "Sophie gets it, held in trust. When she turns 25, she can decide whether to live in it or sell it. But Rebecca doesn't touch it. I signed every page with a steady hand." Richard had 3 witnesses certify my mental competency. Every change was legal, documented, and irrevocable. Next, I visited my bank. Over the years, I'd maintained a joint checking account with Rebecca for emergencies. The balance was currently $12,000, money I'd deposited for her use. I closed the account, transferred every penny back to my personal account. I also discovered she'd been listed as a beneficiary on my retirement accounts. I changed that, splitting the designation between Sophie and the Children's Hospital. The third step was the hardest. I'd co-signed on Rebecca and Bradley's home equity line of credit 5 years ago when they needed it for renovations. They currently owed $87,000 on that line, and my name guaranteed it. I called the bank and legally removed myself as a co-signer, exercising a clause in the contract that allowed withdrawal with 30 days' notice if the other parties could demonstrate independent ability to pay. Bradley's income was sufficient. The bank approved it. If they couldn't make payments, that was their problem now, not mine. Finally, I went home and wrote a letter. I didn't seal it or send it. I just needed to write down everything I felt while it was still fresh and honest. "Rebecca, when you were 12 and your father died, I promised him I'd give you everything. I kept that promise. I gave you my money, my time, my energy, my future. I gave you unconditional love and asked for nothing in return, except that you'd remember I exist. Yesterday, you showed me that to you, I'm worth $25. You showed me that Diane Collins, who has never sacrificed anything for you, is worth 16,000 times more than I am. So I'm teaching you a lesson, your father, and I clearly failed to teach. Love without respect is not love. It's exploitation, and I'm done being exploited." I folded the letter and put it in my safety deposit box, along with copies of all the new legal documents. Then I waited. The explosion came on a Wednesday, 12 days after Mother's Day. Rebecca had tried to transfer money from our joint account to cover Sophie's summer camp and discovered the account was closed. She called me at 7 in the morning. I was drinking coffee on my porch watching the sunrise when my phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail, again, voicemail. By noon, she'd called 37 times. The voicemails escalated from confused to frustrated to panicked. Mom, why is the account closed? Did the bank make a mistake? Then, Mom, I need to pay for Sophie's camp. Can you call me back? Then, Mom, what's going on? Bradley says you removed yourself from the equity line. Is everything okay? Finally, Mom, please pick up. I'm worried about you. I waited until she'd called 53 times over 2 days before I answered, on a Thursday evening. Hello, Rebecca. Mom. Oh my God. I've been trying to reach you for 2 days. What's happening? The accounts are closed. The bank says you withdrew from our loan. I don't understand. Her voice was high, strained, confused. I made some financial decisions, I said calmly. I decided to stop subsidizing your life. Silence. Then, what are you talking about? Rebecca, for 27 years, I've given you over $400,000. I've provided free childcare worth another $100,000. I've been your emotional support, your emergency fund, your backup plan for everything. And on Mother's Day, you bought Diane Collins a house worth $420,000 and gave me $25 flowers from the drugstore. So, I've decided that our financial relationship is over. Mom, you're overreacting about Mother's Day. I didn't mean anything by the flowers. I just thought you wouldn't want something expensive. Her voice had that defensive edge I knew so well. Rebecca, you gave another woman a house. A house. With money you could only afford to spend because I've supported you financially for your entire adult life. You didn't think I'd want something expensive? Or you didn't think I was worth something expensive? That's not fair. Diane is Bradley's mother. His family has expectations. I had to do something significant, or they'd think we were ungrateful. She was fully defensive now, which meant she still didn't understand. And I'm your mother. The one who raised you alone after your father died. The one who worked double shifts so you could go to private school. The one who gave you her life savings. Did you ever wonder about my expectations? My voice stayed level, cold, factual. Mom, this is crazy. You can't just cut me off over one holiday. We're family. Now she was trying to make me feel guilty, to make my boundary sound unreasonable. I'm not cutting you off, Rebecca. I'm treating you like the independent adult you've told me you are. You have a master's degree I paid for, a husband with a good job, a beautiful house I helped you buy. You don't need my money anymore, and clearly you don't want my presence. So you'll have both things you seem to want, independence and Diane. This is about Diane? Mom, she's Bradley's mother. I have to maintain a relationship with her. Rebecca's voice took on that patient, condescending tone she used when explaining things to Sophie. Maintain whatever relationship you want, I said, but you'll do it without my financial backing. I've also changed my will. You'll inherit $25,000, the exact value you assigned to me with those flowers. The rest goes to Sophie and charity. My lawyer has all the documents. Everything is legal and final. The sound she made was somewhere between a gasp and a sob. You changed your will? Mom, how could you do that? I'm your only daughter. You're punishing me for buying a house for Diane? I'm not punishing you, Rebecca. I'm loving you the way you taught me love works in your world, with conditions, calculations, and exact value assignments. You valued me at $25, so that's what you get. I hung up before she could respond. She called 91 times over the next 2 days. 91. I know because I counted. The voicemails were a progression through every stage of grief and manipulation. Denial. Mom, you don't mean this. You're just upset. Anger. You're being completely unreasonable and cruel. Bargaining. What if I explain everything? What if we talk it through? Depression. I can't believe you'd abandon me like this. Acceptance never came, though. Just more anger. Bradley called. His message was briefer, more strategic. Maggie, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Rebecca is devastated. Can we all sit down and discuss this like adults? I'm sure we can work something out. Translation: your money is disappearing and we're panicking. Then Diane called, which almost made me laugh. Margaret, she said in that aristocratic tone she affected, I understand there's been some family discord. As someone with more life experience, may I suggest that holding grudges against one's children is beneath the dignity of a mother. I deleted that voicemail without listening to the rest. Sophie called on Friday evening. Her voice was small, worried. Grandma? Mom is really upset. She's crying a lot. She said, you cut her out of your will and closed the bank accounts. Did you really do that? Yes, sweetheart, I did. I kept my voice gentle for her. Why? No judgment, just curiosity. Because sometimes, even people we love need to learn that respect matters. Your mother forgot that, and I need to teach her to remember. I paused. Sophie, you know I love you more than anything, right? And you know this isn't about you? I know, Grandma. I told Mom the flowers were wrong. I told her you deserved better. She said I didn't understand adult relationships. Sophie's voice hardened slightly. But I do understand. I saw your face at the party. You looked so sad. You're a wise girl, Sophie. My voice cracked. No matter what happens between your mother and me, you and I are solid. Always. In fact, I've made sure you're taken care of in my will. When you're 25, you'll get my house and a trust fund. But don't tell your mother that yet. I won't, Sophie promised. Grandma, I love you. And I think what Mom did was wrong. I love you too, baby. More than you know. The confrontation came on Saturday. Rebecca showed up at my house at 8 in the morning with Bradley. I'd been expecting them. I made coffee and sat on my porch swing, watching them park and walk up the path. Rebecca looked terrible, her eyes swollen from crying, her hair unwashed. Bradley looked uncomfortable, his jaw tight. Mom, we need to talk, Rebecca said, her voice shaking. Come sit, I said, gesturing to the porch chairs. Saturday I waited. Rebecca spoke first, her words tumbling out. Mom, I'm sorry about the flowers. I didn't think it through. I was so focused on Diane and making a good impression on Bradley's family that I didn't think about how you'd feel. I'm sorry, I really am. But you can't punish me forever for one mistake. Rebecca, it wasn't one mistake. It was the culmination of years of taking me for granted. I kept my voice even. When was the last time you called me just to talk? Not because you needed something, not because Sophie needed to be picked up, just because you wanted to hear my voice? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I don't know. I've been busy. When was the last time you invited me to a holiday before Mother's Day? Last Christmas, I had to ask if I could come. Thanksgiving, you went to Diane's. Easter, you went to Diane's beach house. I spent all of them alone. We invited you to Easter, Bradley interjected weakly. You invited me after Diane's sister canceled. I was the backup option. I looked at him directly. Bradley, you seem like a good man, but your family has completely absorbed my daughter, and she's let it happen because your mother has money and social status and I have neither. Rebecca's face flushed. That's not true. I love you, Mom. I believe you love me, Rebecca. But you don't respect me. Love without respect is worthless. I leaned forward. You spent $420,000 on Diane. You couldn't spare 100, 500, even 5,000. You chose $25. From the drugstore, you didn't even remove the price tag. She started crying. I thought you'd like flowers. You always say not to spend money on you. I say that because I've never had the luxury of expecting you to spend money on me. I spent all my money on you, but when you had the chance to show me I mattered, you showed me exactly how little I'm worth to you. So now I'm showing you the same courtesy. You're worth exactly what you said I'm worth. $25,000. That's your inheritance. Bradley shifted uncomfortably. Maggie, that seems extreme. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's Sophie's future, too. Sophie is fully provided for, I said. She gets the house and a trust fund. I made sure of that. But Rebecca has to learn a lesson she should have learned decades ago. You can't take people for granted, even people who love you unconditionally, especially people who love you unconditionally. So that's it? Rebecca's voice rose. After everything we've been through, after I'm your only child, after Dad died and it was just us against the world, you're cutting me out? You cut me out first, Rebecca. You just did it slowly, over years, until I became invisible. I'm just making official what you already felt. I stood up. I love you. I always will. But I'm done sacrificing my dignity for your convenience. If you want a relationship with me going forward, it has to be built on mutual respect, not financial dependency. Until you understand that, we don't have much to say to each other. They left. Rebecca was sobbing. Bradley looked shell-shocked. I went inside, sat on my couch, and cried for an hour. Then I called Sophie and asked if she wanted to come over for dinner. She did. We made pasta and talked about school and boys and everything except her mother. When I drove her home, she hugged me tight and whispered, "You're braver than anyone I know, Grandma." 6 months passed. They were the strangest 6 months of my life. Rebecca tried various strategies. First, continued apologies and pleas. Then anger and accusations that I was destroying the family. Then silence for 2 months, which hurt more than the calls. Then an attempt at casual reconciliation, inviting me to Sophie's school play like nothing had happened. I went to the play. I sat 3 rows behind Rebecca and Bradley. Afterward, I congratulated Sophie and left without speaking to my daughter. Sophie came to my house twice a week after school. We'd bake, or I'd help with homework, or we'd just talk. She never pressured me to forgive her mother. She seemed to understand something adults often forget, that sometimes love requires boundaries. I learned through Sophie that Rebecca had to sell Diane's house. The mortgage on their own house, plus the property taxes on a second house they'd foolishly put in their names, was too much without my subsidies. Diane was furious, moved back to her old neighborhood, and barely spoke to them for months. Bradley's family gatherings became tense. Rebecca had to drop her country club membership. They canceled their annual vacation. These weren't things I celebrated. I took no joy in their struggles, but I also didn't rescue them. Every time Rebecca called asking for help, I said no. Every time Bradley mentioned the equity line being harder to pay without my guarantee, I said that was unfortunate. I wasn't cruel, but I was firm. In November, Rebecca showed up at my house on Thanksgiving, not with demands or tears, but with a pie she'd made herself, Sophie beside her. "Mom," she said quietly, "I know I don't deserve this, but would you like to have Thanksgiving with us? Just us, not Bradley's family. Just you, me, Bradley, and Sophie. I'll cook. You won't bring anything. I just want you there." I looked at her face and saw something I hadn't seen in years. Genuine humility. "Okay," I said. "What time? 2 o'clock? And Mom?" She met my eyes. "I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not because of the money. Because I forgot who you are. I forgot what you mean to me. I was so busy trying to impress people who don't actually matter that I neglected the person who matters most." "I know," I said. "That's why this had to happen." Thanksgiving was quiet, awkward, but real. We didn't pretend everything was fine, but we talked honestly for the first time in years. Rebecca told me about the pressure she'd felt from Bradley's family, the constant competition with his siblings, the fear that she'd never measure up because she didn't come from money. I listened without fixing it. "Mom, she said as we cleared dishes. "I don't expect you to change your will. I understand why you did it. I just want you to know I'm working on being a better daughter. Not for the money. For us." "I know," I said, and surprisingly, I believed her. My story doesn't end with a perfect reconciliation because real life doesn't work that way. Rebecca and I are rebuilding our relationship slowly, carefully, on new terms. Terms that include mutual respect, not just my sacrifice. She calls me twice a week now, just to talk. She invites me to family dinners. She remembered my birthday this year with a thoughtful gift she clearly put effort into. Small steps, but genuine ones. The will remains unchanged. Sophie knows she'll inherit the house. Rebecca knows she gets $25,000. And somehow, that clarity has made our relationship healthier. She's not performing for an inheritance anymore. She's showing up because she wants to, not because she needs to. Did I do the right thing? I don't know. What I do know is that for the first time in decades, I feel like Margaret Peterson, not just Rebecca's mother. I have my own money, my own choices, my own dignity. And my daughter is learning, slowly but surely, that love and respect must coexist. Some relationships only survive when you're willing to let them die first. And sometimes, the greatest gift you can give someone you love is the gift of consequences. If you found meaning in my story, I'd appreciate your support with a like. Subscribe to the channel for more true stories about family, dignity, and the lessons we learn the hard way. Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to know. Would you have done the same thing? Thanks for listening.